Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about, finally, I have an episode of Season 2 of Nancy Drew that I actually really enjoy, and I kind of wish the entire season would have went into this direction and would have been the main story arc for the entire season. Season 2, Episode 16, Purloined Keys. Finally, and I mean finally, they gave me the type of Nancy Drew I feel like we deserve in this entire series, because Nancy Drew did some amazing legwork in her detective skills today. And not only that, but she finally gave like some emotion and some gravitas to like all the stuff that's been like frustrating her like entire season and even a little bit of last season. It finally gave the actress like time to show some emotion and some depth in her like acting, because like most of the time when she talks, she just like talks and like that's it, and it's kind of like one tone. And like I do like the actress, but it's just like she doesn't give me like enough like gumption. She doesn't give me no like pizzazz, like razzle dazzle, you know what I'm saying? And like, cause she's supposed to be the lead and she's supposed to be the like main like attraction, but it's just like when she just delivers her lines, she just like delivers her lines and like that's it. And so finally they just gave her something that made me like yes, and it's kind of like they made her like to like a boss, and especially like with the outfit she had on and stuff. It was just like it was like it felt like it wasn't even like a Nancy Drew show. It felt like it was just a straight like family drama, kind of like that show Dynasty or something, which I don't watch the CW Dynasty, only because like that's not my type of show. Plus, like I watched the original years ago, and I really don't like watching reboots at all. I don't care like what the reboot's really about, or like how like cool of approach that they take to like diversity, because I love diversity in TV shows and I feel there should be more diversity. However, a show can have all the diversity it wants and I still won't watch it if it's a reboot. Only because, and I do mean only because, it's a reboot. Because I don't like reboots, man. They get on my nerves. The only exception I made to reboots was the Charm reboot, and there was three main reasons why I decided to check that out. One main reason, I was curious to see like how similar or different it'll be from the original. Two, I was kind of curious to see what like Mexican folklore was when it's dealing with like their demons and their witches and stuff like that. So I assumed we'll be getting that, but we just got typical European like folklore type stuff. And also the actresses aren't really Mexican. Only one is. And three, I was just there to support the older actress that's in the show who plays the older sister, because I remember she was on a show called Into the Badlands, and I really liked that show, and I really liked her acting in that. So, and then she got killed off in the second season, and so I was like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll just watch it to like support her career and stuff like that. But then she irritated me too when Sarah Jeffries got into that huge fight with Holly Marie Combs, because Sarah Jeffries, even like she just said something really stupid and snarky. Like she said, when she hears the word charm, she doesn't think of the original one. And this came right after her co-star got into a huge fight with Holly. And I'm just thinking to myself, how is that possible? I mean, your show is literally the reboot. Your show is the copycat of the original. Your show is just a money grab of the original. Your show would not even exist if it wasn't for the original one. And so it's like, I get she wants to support her cast and support her show, but it's like, if you hear the name Charm, the first thing you're gonna think is the original one. Just like if they were to make a Buffy reboot, the first thing you're gonna think of is like the original one. When people heard of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, they thought of what? The original one. So it's just kind of, I just felt like that was just a rude, snarky, shady little comment to make, and she's too grown to make like a little teenage comment like that, you know? So that just like irritated me and stuff. She would literally have no job right now, like no full-time like TV show job right now if it wasn't for the original Charm show. Because like I said before, she got killed off in the second season of Into the Badlands, and they got renewed for like a third, but now their show is completely canceled now. And she probably just would have been bopping around like doing guest roles or something like that, or recurring roles, until she found like an actual gig. And the actual gig she found was the Charm reboot, which she is not Hispanic whatsoever. Yeah, she's originally supposed to be a Hispanic witch, but then they later made it to where she's half black. And that's only because of the backlash that they received from the show from fans. So all those CW reboots like Kung Fu, Walker, Beverly Hills, that 90210 reboot they had years ago, Melrose Place, I didn't watch none of that stuff because I just like the original ones so much better. But so far, this is my absolute like favorite episode of this entire season. Now, I do kind of like that one episode where they kept losing their memories, only because that was just a wacky episode, and I really liked it. And I really liked the line that the Nancy Drew character delivered. I forgot what the line is, something about how didn't I see this coming or something like that. And it just caused her to kind of like have like different depth to her acting, because it's kind of monotone. Like this is like only one layer to it, and I want like more. The only time they ever show more layers is when she gets upset, like she did in the first season when she found out that she was adopted. And so it's like, but my problem with that episode, the one where they kept losing their memory, is like there was this huge battle fight between the Drew crew, God I hate that name, and the ghostly monster thing. And they didn't show it, but they kept talking about it, talking about how cool it was, or how like bad it was, and how they got all scratched up and bumped up, and why they were like fighting with knives. And I'm just like, come on, man, show that. But of course they couldn't, because the CGI on the monster probably like wasn't that great, probably. Well, it looked like that, so Now there were a few little things that irritated me in this episode. One little thing just irritated me just like a little bit. I was kind of upset about how George and Bess really didn't have much to do in this episode. But Bess did have some like cool lines in here and there, the way she talks. Ace, once again, is just there. But at least his girlfriend got to do something. And something about his girlfriend I didn't bring up, I'll bring up a little bit later. So let's put a pin in that later. Also, there's something I pointed out last week in the last week episode that I literally proved that was right. Like, I'll get into that a little bit later too. All right, so this episode starts off in a very wonky kind of way. Like, there's something up. Basically, it's a dream sequence where Nancy is all dolled up at some kind of banquet. She's in an evening gown dress, and she approaches Everett. Now, Everett is played by a completely different actor from the first season. This new actor, I can't remember how the first one used to act, but this one is straight up mean. So I like that, because he acts the way people describe Everett, a very ruthless type man. So she walks up to him, they start talking, and then he takes out a knife and he slashes her throat. And it's not no ordinary knife, like it's a pretty fancy kind of knife, like something you will see off like Charmed or Buffy or something like that look like it'll be used like to fight demons or something. And so he cuts her throat and it bleeds, and then she screams, waking up in her bed because she just had a nightmare. See, Nancy knows like her time is coming when it comes to Everett, and not only her time but the entire Drew crew, because not only did they catch him for the murder of Lucy Sable, but they did it in front of everybody where he got arrested. And he was not too pleased about that. However, something happened a couple of weeks ago. I forgot what. Somebody's life was in danger as a result of Everett behind bars. And so in order to protect that person, she had to recant her story. And so now he's a free man. So she knows it's only a matter of time before he comes after her and her entire crew. Now, Everett doesn't know that he's her granddaughter or grandfather, because Cecilia hasn't told him yet, and Nancy, she wants to tell him, but kind of just to rub it in his face. But it's like she knows that if he finds out that she's Lucy Sable's daughter, he'll straight up murder her because he didn't want that secret to get out. And so she's talking to Cecilia, which is really her second only ally in the Hudson family. So Cecilia is her grandmother, and they have a really good connection. They bonded a lot more during that memory episode. And Cecilia is really warming up to her and really loving her as a granddaughter and stuff. And so she tells Nancy that Everett wants to meet with her because Cecilia told him that, Nancy would be a great asset to him because she's like a little junior detective type investigator person, and he needs that right now. So she meets with Everett, and he tells her that, while he was locked up, he felt somebody was betraying him, leaking certain secrets. There's a really bad secret he does not want to get leaked out. It involves a murder. Supposedly he murdered somebody, and it was caught on tape. And so he feels this man has been leaking secrets, and he wants to find out who Hudson, no, wait, what's his name? Howard. He wants to know who Howard was leaking these secrets to. So he tells her that he has Howard's cell phone and his laptop and stuff like that, and he's going to send it to her, and he wants her to investigate it. She figures to herself this would be a great way to kind of get not only on his good side, but to gather information that can also get him relocked back up. And so she goes along with it. So he's basically just testing her and stuff, and she knows that. So she gets her team to help her out with this, and Ryan, her dad, decides that him and Nick and Ryan's girlfriend are going to be the ones to kind of solve this thing first so that Nancy won't have to be involved, because they don't want Nancy to be involved and be around Everett. So they go behind Nancy's back, and they're doing their own little detective thing. And after talking to them, Nancy suspects that, that they're kind of keeping something from her. Now, this is where Amanda Boothby comes into play, and she is Ace's girlfriend. So Ace kind of gets something to do a little bit, but he don't really do nothing. He's literally just there, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, Howard is staying at the hotel that she works at because she's a little cleaning lady type person. Now, the thing I want to unpin, Amanda, her last name, I'm probably saying this wrong, but it's Bobbsey. At first I was saying Bosby. It might be that, but I'm just going to say Boothby. Only because mainly I like the dude from Star Trek Next Generation, the groundskeeper named Boothby. So, So anyway, her last name is no surprise. But for those who don't know, there are a series of books from the Boothby twins. And they were written by the dude who created Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys, Tom Swift, and that is no other than Edward Streitmeyer. And so, yeah, like I said before, there are series and series of books of the Boothby twins, but who are they? Well, they're fraternal twins. Now, in the show, their first names are different. In the show, they're Amanda. In the show, they're renamed to Amanda and Gil. When Gil first showed up, he showed up kind of a little bit of a prick and a jerk, because he kind of left the crew to die when they were being attacked by a monster, because there's a monster attacks by sound, and so or something like that, and he left them in the bus and took off running. So he's a little bit of a prick, but he ends up dating Nancy because Nancy's no longer with Nick. Now, in the book, their names are Nan and Bert. Those were the first two twins, and then their brother and sister, the other two twins, are Flossie and Freddie. Now, in the show, they have been race bent, and for pretty much good reason, because just like with all of Edward's stories, there are undertones of racism in there, especially when it depicts black people. But he was born in the 1800s and he died in 1930s, and he looks like this. So, you can just tell, like, probably why he wrote some racist type stuff up in there and some racist undertone type stuff. So now all of his works that he helped create and write have now been presented on TV, mainly on the CW in some way or another. Because 3 of them are part of what they call now the Drewverse. However, like I said before, the Hardy Boys are on Hulu. So, but now with the whole Tom Swift thing and his mechanical genius stuff, he could probably like create a time machine and send the Hardy Boys to the future or something like that if they could ever cross over with Hulu. But there's one set of books that hasn't got adapted yet, and those are the Rover Boys. Probably because they were kind of like bad boys and stuff, you know what I'm saying? But so far they haven't been adapted. Now the Boosby twins in the books, they mainly just went like on little adventures, but then once the Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys started crossing over in the books, then their stories completely went into them being like junior detectives because they're only about 8 or 10 years old. So yeah. Anyway, so Amanda lets the trio, which is like Nick, Ryan, and his girlfriend, into the hotel room, and they find Howard dead. It looks like a suicide, but okay, here's the thing that irritates me a little bit. In traditional CW form, when Nick and Ryan see the dead body, they scream and holler like little girls. When Ryan's girlfriend sees the dead body, she's just like, oh, okay, dead body, whatever. Like, she's just like all cavalier about it. When Amanda sees the body, she has a worried look on her face, but she's not screaming and hollering. CW. Why do you keep doing this to men? Like, I don't get it, man. Like, and they do it on purpose. It's not by coincidence. And they tell their writers to do that crap on all their shows. And it's just like, either have all of them be scared like they normally do when Nancy and them be there, or just have like none of them be scared, because Nick shouldn't even be scared to see a dead body no more. The man literally sees like ghosts and like demon ghosts and stuff. Also, what irritates me in this is that Nick was acting dumb in this entire episode. It's kind of like, dude, what happened to your detective skills, Because he assumes, okay, well, it's a suicide, blah, blah, blah. There's no way nobody could get in and out the window. But Ryan's girlfriends are like, nope, they wanted you to think this was a suicide. This was murder. And it's like she was the only one to figure that out. Even Ryan couldn't figure that out, and he knows how his dad is. So anyway, Nancy, when she gets the laptop, she's looking through it, and so she sees that there are these strange emails, and the emails come from the email addresses like numbers instead of like words. And Carson, her adoptive dad, who's like a lawyer, he tells her, oh, this is like a prison type thing, a prison type email. And so she realizes it's somebody in the prison who he's talking to. But you have to get special clearance to see somebody in prison. You just can't walk on up in there and stuff, So she calls Nick, and Nick is, of course, at the hotel where Howard is dead with the trio. And so she's telling him about the whole Howard and the prison thing, and he's still like lying to her, like not telling her where he's at. So then he informs them that the whole Howard prison thing. So they all get back to the diner, minus Nancy. Everett must have been the one to have Howard murdered. So Ryan, so somehow they found out what Everett is looking for is some type of tape and stuff. And so Ryan knows that there's a certain person involved when it comes to this tape and when it comes to Howard. But this guy is locked up in jail. So he tells, Ace that, he gives him some money for he tells, I know a guy that can get y'all into like the prison to go talk to this one person. This person turns out to be Amanda's dad. He is a criminal and a little thief. So Amanda goes too. And it's nice that Amanda is getting involved in the detective work and stuff, because she's just not like a regular girlfriend who just sits by the sideline. At least she's getting like involved. Plus she has to get involved because, she's technically famous because of those other books and stuff. And it'd be nice if Ace could really get involved, but he's literally just there and says like 1 or 2 things. Now, another thing that kind of bugs me a little bit is that when they were at the diner, George and Bess didn't have nothing to do. And you know those are my favorites. So basically, what Bess's whole storyline is that she's created a dating profile app and nobody is swiping her, which seriously, I mean, look at her. Nobody's swiping. Come on now. And so she's irritated. She thinks there's something wrong with her. And then she's talking to Ryan's girlfriend. And I do like the conversation they're having because the actress who plays her went full British when talking, like just her accent and the way she was talking. It like she was singing a song, but like in a British kind of accent, like in a strong British like accent, you know. And so Ryan's girlfriend's getting irritated, and because Bess is just irritated. She don't understand why nobody doesn't like her other than just like a dead ghost. And so Ace spills the beans to Bess about something that happened last, 2 weeks ago with when he was possessed by George's grandmother, about how because Odette is in George's body, it's cutting down her life expectancy. So George is about to croak soon. And she doesn't want Bess to know, and then they have like a little heartfelt talk, and this whole storyline between them two is just stupid. I mean, she's dating Nick, for crying out loud, and they gave Bess a dead ghost like lover type thing, and it's just so dumb. Like I don't know what the writing went this season. So a little side note, since I already went to that thing above me, the thing about last week. Remember how I said Nick says he talks differently when he's around black people than when he's around everybody else? And so that kind of irritated me because I'm just like, well, I've seen him talk to black people before, and he talks exactly the same way, and he acts exactly the same way. So I said that if that is true, then in next week's episode and in all of season 3, because I think there's only like 2 episodes left this season, and so he should be acting differently now, since he doesn't want to hide who he is. Well, he's talking to Ryan's girlfriend, and Ryan's girlfriend is black, and they interact with each other throughout this entire episode. And guess what? Nick is acting exactly the same way he always does when he talks to everybody. So that is what pissed me off last week, because they wanted to do like this black awareness type thing, but they only did it because of what's been going on with the world, and they just crammed it into an episode, and they crammed it into one. Like I have a problem when they cram it into one episode, and then next week everything's dropped. So it's kind of like Black History Month. You learn about black people for that 1 month, and then for the rest of the year, for the other 11 months, you just learn about white people. And so it's just kind of like, if they're going to do black awareness, they need to do it a whole lot better. They need to pepper it in throughout the entire season or the entire series. Similar to like how B'Elanna didn't like being half Klingon on Star Trek Voyager. They let us know that throughout the entire series. They didn't overdo it. They just kept sprinkling in every now and then. So then when it came time for the episode where she was split from her Klingon self, and there was 2 versions of her, one was fully Klingon, one was fully human, she realized, we got this. That was a really good episode. We realized that she said that she needs both her parts to be like whole and be who she is, because she needs her Klingon side, because without that, she's like a coward and stuff. And then it was even more important for when she had a kid, and she feared that the child might come out looking more Klingon. So she literally tried to change the DNA of her unborn child while it was still in the womb. And so those 2 episodes didn't just come out of nowhere. It was sprinkled throughout the entire series. And that's how it should be like for this and the whole Nick thing. So that's my gripe. So, what's his name? Ace and Amanda, they're at the prison, and they're talking to her dad, and he's all like, where's Gil? And Gil doesn't want to come because he doesn't get along with his dad. And so they're talking about that night and the whole Everett thing, and so he doesn't really want to say too much because he knows how Everett is. And he starts telling them this and that about this murder, and how it was like videotaped of supposedly Everett killing this man with his bare hands. And So she's all like, well, where's the tape? And he won't tell her because, he has to keep that to himself so he won't die. And so she's like, okay, well then where's the dead body? He's all like, oh, sweetie, everybody knows what the dead bodies are. And so then they mentioned something about how like Howard is dead because Howard was the one who went to go see him in prison. And once he hears that, he's like, oh, all right, well, we're done. Like, we're not talking about this no more. So he makes the guards like exit them and stuff like that. And so, he knows now, her dad knows that his time is up. Because if Everett knows that Howard was leaking secrets, then Howard is going to tie up every loose end there is. And Mr. Boothby is a liability. So he knows his time is 9. So everybody gets informed. They talk about, I think they talked to Nancy about some kind of like Howard's car, and she has a cell phone to unlock his car, and then she has to go look for a folder. I forget the reasons why and stuff, but yeah, I kind of zoned out of that part. I think I was doing something else, but anyway, they informed her about some kind of like folder, and she has to go get it, and she realizes that it must be in his car, and she has the keys to unlock his car through the cell phone. So she goes there and she's looking, and she's in the car and she's taking pictures of like, what's in the folder. I forget what's in the folder. Like it's some numbers and stuff or something like that. And so she then sees Ryan's girlfriend, and Ryan's girlfriend is kind of confrontational. It's all like, all I have to do is just like whistle, and those cops and those fire department people that's only a few feet away will suspect that you're inside the dead man's car. And so because Ryan's girlfriend wants that folder too, she's a reporter. She wants to nail every Hudson family and all their misdeeds. She can be like basically the lowest lane of like the city and win like the biggest award and stuff. Nancy doesn't want her to have it, so she locks it back in the car. But Nancy lies to her and tells her she don't know what's on the folder, but she took a bunch of pictures. So Nancy meets with Cecilia and they're talking, and then Cecilia acting kind of a little strange and weird. But anyway, she tells her that, she's kept secrets from Everett and that she suspects that Everett knows that she is lying. He knows about Nancy and all this other stuff, but she still wants him to meet together at this banquet thing because she's supposed to give him all the information and stuff. So anyways, somehow the Drew crew realized that that clue of everybody knows where the bodies are buried must mean like something. So they're starting to like gather all the like places that they would have met, and one of those places is a mausoleum where all the Hudson family is stored. So they go in there and they're looking. Well, first Amanda gives the Drew crew a bunch of keys because her dad stole a bunch of keys and stuff. And so I guess it's supposed to unlock something or whatever. But anyway, it leads them to the mausoleum. That's the only really important thing. So they go in, they break in, they're trying to find the tape. And so they're like, which dead body could the tape be buried at? Back with Nancy. So she's getting ready and she's trying to decipher these numbers, but she's like coming up short and she doesn't know what. And then Everett calls and he's demanding that she hurry up with this investigation and all this other stuff. And so then she calls Nick, but he's not answering his phone. So then Nancy gets dressed and she looks really nice in her evening gown. Her hair's like different. I almost didn't recognize her. She's wearing like makeup. And she's talking to Carson, and Carson wants to take a picture of her, and she's like, she's trying to keep all her friends safe, and it's really hard, and she doesn't want to take a picture, but she takes a picture anyways. And then she realizes that, Nick isn't answering his phone because he's probably doing something like with Ryan and his girlfriend, and they're doing something, and they're probably walking into a trap. So she heads to the mausoleum, and as soon as the trio breaks into like one of the vaults, she pulls Nick aside and she tells them like, like y'all walk into a trap. They look into the little empty vault and they see, bam, a video camera recording them. And they open that one specifically because every little tomb thing has like dust on it except for that one, and the little door has been like remodeled and stuff. So they figured if somebody was gonna put something in there, that would have been that one. So this is the part of the show that I really love, that really gave Nancy some gumption. When Nancy and all them come out, she is letting them have it. She is berating them. She is shouting from like her like rooftops, and she's just like really laying it into them, telling them that, this is why she kept calling them over and over, and you didn't pick up your phone because she was trying to protect y'all because y'all were walking into a trap. And, now she has ruined everything and stuff because, well, they have, because they screwed it up, because now Everett is going to suspect that Ryan and his girlfriend are the ones that Howard was leaking secrets to, since they are now on the video. And she's all like, your dad is going to come after you. And the girlfriend's all like, oh, no, he's not, because that's his son. And Ryan's like, yes, he will, because when that man gets mad, he sees red. And he will kill anyone and then regret it later, I just loved how like domineering and like forceful and commanding Nancy was in this moment. And the fact that you couldn't see her evening gown dress because she was wearing a black long trench coat, it just made her look more powerful. It felt like a real detective show, like somebody wearing like a trench coat and stuff, and her hair was like nicely done, and it felt like kind of like a old school noir type stuff, type stuff. And it's just like, it was just like just a powerful moment. And Nick is just being an idiot. It's all like, well, it was worth the risk. And she like, was it? And then she just starts laying into Nick. And it's like, this is what's so funny about her and Nick in this episode. They're acting like they were still boyfriend and girlfriend. Like she's getting mad at him like she would like a boyfriend and stuff. But they're not dating no more. And it's just like really cool. So that's why I wish him and her were kind of like back together, or at least there was some kind of like love triangle type thing, because the way she like ripped into him was like really powerful and stuff, So she hops back in her blue car and she tells them that she has to go like handle this business now because she's gonna go meet Everett. Cecilia. Oh, one thing I wanted to point out that I never pointed out before is Nancy's little blue convertible, her old 1970s looking car. And, and it's kind of weird. Like, one might suspect, like, why is she driving such an old-fashioned type of car? Well, it's because of the books. See, in the book, she had a series of 3 different blue cars. One was a Mustang, one was, I think, a World, what is the car? It starts with an R. I forgot what it's called, but it's like a really old-fashioned car. A World Royce or something like that. And then one is the blue convertible, and that's the second one she's had in the books. And so they gave it to her in the show, which is cool or not. Like, I always wonder, like, why exactly is that? I'm like, okay, it must be because of the books. And after doing some research, yeah, it was. So I like when shows do like that little thing. It's not out of place at all, like it was in Riverdale and that old-fashioned car they drove that time. Oh, really? So she's with Cecilia, and they're somewhere, like at the docks or something like that. And they're in like a room closet thingy or something like that. They're in something. I don't know what they're in. And then so Cecilia is talking really weird and repeating things she said earlier today. So it's like there's something strange is going on with her. And not sure what. And so I'm all like, maybe it's something ghostly, because a ghost hasn't shown up at all in this episode. So I was really happy about that. And then Nancy sees a bunch of blood that's coagulated on like the floor or something like that. And so she looks up and bam, the biggest shocker reveal ever. It's Cecilia's dead body being hung from like the ceiling. So Nancy sees it, Cecilia sees it, and they freak out. And I'm just like, holy crap, like, what is going on? Like, I can only think of 3 possibilities. Either the Cecilia that's next to her is a ghost, is a twin sister, or a clone. And the only reason why I thought of a clone is because of last week Tom Swift episode. So I'm like, okay, the clone thing's a little stupid, so let's like leave that out. Now, the reason why I thought a twin is because Cecilia told Nancy that she keeping a lot of secrets from Everett. And because this is like a CW drama type show, I thought maybe Cecilia isn't really Cecilia, and maybe she's like a twin, And the real Cecilia is probably like now dead. But nope, it's a ghost. And so Nancy's all like, your body had to been dead for at least a couple of hours, or maybe all day. And so Nancy's literally been talking to a ghost the entire day and stuff. And it's just like, and she wants to know, she kept asking her, like, how did you die? Who killed you? And Cecilia can't even remember. But she says, it's time for her to leave. And Nancy doesn't want her to leave. And this is a touching little moment because Nancy is literally bawling in tears and showing more emotion than she did when she yelled at Ryan and Nick. She now knows that Everett knows something and he killed Cecilia just for lying. And Nancy knows now she's gonna die. Her friends are gonna die. Everett is gonna get them. Everett is so many steps ahead and she doesn't understand how because Nancy prides herself on being very smart and being a detective, and she doesn't like the idea of Everett being so many steps ahead of her. And it's just like, it's just maddening for her and stuff. And so it's just a great moment of her like showing so much emotion and vulnerability and crying and stuff. And that's what I've been asking for when it comes to her character specifically, because you don't really see that in the series. I'm just thinking to myself, where is this gonna go now with Nancy? So, Ryan and his girlfriend, they said their goodbyes and stuff because now she has to get out the city because Everett's gonna come for her. And then so I'm just like, well, what is Nancy gonna do now? Because she's emotionally upset. She knows her life is in danger. She wants to protect everybody. And now she knows she can't protect nobody. So I'm thinking to myself, I started getting flashbacks of I still know what you did last summer. Where, what's his name? Freddie Prinze Jr. character. Whatever that dude's name is. I seriously thought that Nancy was going to go to a pawn shop and buy a gun. Like, I seriously thought she was going to do that because she's at this stage where all her cards are like off the table. Like, she has lost every chess piece that like she has because literally her and Everett are literally just playing a game of chess with each other and he is winning. So I assumed she was going to buy a gun. Like, what's his face character did in that slasher movie. That's what happened in the second movie. The killer had like hospitalized him. He knows his like love is in danger, so he went to the pawn shop and then he just went and bought a gun. So I assumed that's what was gonna happen. So Everett's at his little banquet thing, and then he's talking to his guards, and then he sees the video of Ryan and his girlfriend, and he tells them, handle the girl, I'll handle my son. And then he gets into his limo, and then there's Nancy just sitting there. And he's like, oh, you're so theatrical and everything. And I love this moment. Nancy has truly become like, I'm seeing her for the first time as an adult. And she's talking to him all confident, heads up high. She's holding her composure. She's being like a boss, you know what I'm saying? And she's basically telling him that, when it comes to like, you was all worried and scared about the secrets that Howard leaked to somebody, and that's not something you should be scared of. And he's like, well, who should I be scared of? And then she sits next to him and she's like, me. And then she like tases him with like a taser, and then she puts like a bag over his head and tell Gil to like drive off. Now Gil's not in this episode. He's just mentioned, like I said before, he's one of the Boothby twins and her boyfriend and stuff. I seriously thought she had a gun or a knife and she was just gonna take him out like right then and there, but she had a taser instead. And it's just like, it was just like a powerful moment for her, and I loved it. Now in next week's episode, the trailer, they're gonna interrogate him, this and that. But it's something else I wanted to mention is that, so during this moment when she tased him and stuff, there's a montage in music where Carson is looking at the picture he took of Nancy. Now, he took it with a Polaroid camera, which I thought that was really weird. Why in the world is he doing that? Like, okay, I get it. Nancy Drew was written back in the old days, but he had to have that. Like, I hope they're not doing like a Riverdale thing where you, in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, where you just don't know what time era they're in. And so, like, he's looking at the picture and it dissolves, and he realizes that Nancy looks weird in this picture. She's looking like a dead corpse almost. Her skin is extremely white. It's a little pinkish red around the eyes and around certain other areas. And there are the huge slash marks on her arm. and that's it. And so he's freaking out, so he doesn't understand what's going on. I think this is his first time seeing something paranormal, I believe. And so it's just like, could that dream in the early beginning, could that be coming true? Is Nancy gonna die? But if she dies, why are there only slash marks on her arm and no other place? You can't die from being cut on the arm like 3 places. Yeah, you'll lose blood and everything, but you're not gonna like die like that. There's no stab wounds on her chest, there's no slash marks on her throat. So I think something paranormal is gonna take hold of her at some point. Because okay, when Amanda's dad was telling her about that tape, she said Everett kept trying to destroy the tape. And no matter how many times he destroyed it or tossed it away, it kept coming back in the same place. So something ghostly, supernatural is going to happen. So whoever he killed must have got possessed by like a ghost, something like that. And you see, that's what this whole season should have been about. It should have been the thing, after the whole Akleka thing, it should have been about who Everett killed and the ghost that possessed him, and how the Drew crew has to stop all this stuff and deal with all this other stuff. Oh, also, she mentions to Everett that she's his granddaughter. And so, right before she tases him. And in this episode, I didn't even mind the ghostly nature of stuff because at least they did it in a very natural way. Cecilia was just a regular human looking ghost. She wasn't like demonic or nothing like that, you know. There was like no weird spells. It was just she didn't even know she was a ghost. And that was just like a better way of doing it. And that's how I wish this whole series would do stuff and stop doing the whole monster ghost thing and the jump scares and all this other crap. And the jump scare once again in this one didn't even make me scared. And it's just like, because when the guys jumped at the dead body of Howard, they did it in a almost comedical kind of way. And it's just like, how am I supposed to be scared if y'all are like goofing around scared, But this is a really, 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 really good episode. And I just wish the entire season would have been like this. It sucks that like Bess and George didn't get to do much. Ace never does anything. Lord Jesus, why they keep that character around, I don't understand. Like, I just don't understand why they keep that character around. Like, I'm not trying to sound mean, but he literally never does anything. He's always just there, And it's just, I don't get it. But I really was very like surprised and proud about like Nancy and the huge like twist shocker. And it's just like, it was great. So now there's only like 2 episodes left of this season, and I'm wondering, I hope they end it off in a really good way and not no stupid cheesy kind of way. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.